Hello. Welcome to the bass deep dive. If you've already seen my video on making 3 cabinets, that's probably how you ended up here. But if you haven't seen that, check it out. Card should go up here. Want to dive in to explaining the setup a little bit because it was a very ambitious setup, but I'm very happy with how it turned out, and I think it's pretty cool. Overcomplicated? Yes. But nifty? I think so. So on the back of the bass cabinet, there is a lot of jacks, 8 to be exact. And you'd think, why do you need 8 jacks on the back of a cabinet? All you need is to plug the cable from the head to the cabinet. I realized that even if they're not actually integrated into the design of the cabinet, I can put a lot of different things there to make it more efficient. So we're going to cover what it is. First thing that the strip on the back of a cabinet is helping accomplish is it being a cabinet. It's just speak on to speak on. And that comes from the head. The head is an Alpha Omega 900 from Darkglass Electronics. Great sounding head. The next thing that jack plate is acting as is a fancy power strip because it's providing power to the head, the Alpha Omega 900, which is the easiest because that just needs 120 volt mains wall power. And that's using PowerCon. So the blue one is PowerCon in, that comes from the wall. The white one is PowerCon out, that is just a quick turnaround of power to go up to the head. And then the head is powered, done, piece of cake. Super efficient way to get that done. Could I just plug a power cable into the head? Yes, but the reason I did it this way is that the whole rig runs on one outlet. The head, the pedal, and the MIDI controller upstage all run one outlet. So that fancy power strip also has 9 volt output. I'm accomplishing that via a exposed PCB 9 volt converter I got off of Amazon. Mains power travels from the PowerCon in to that 9 volt converter, and then that 9 volt converter goes out to 2 places. The first of which is the pedal. It just has this 9 volt 2.1 millimeter barrel connector on the back of the cabinet, and that goes and it powers the GFI Specular Tempus. The reason that pedal is important is I used it on the bass parts on one of the tracks on my EP. The EP is called Everytime EP, and the track is called Bread. It is a delay that is a 5th higher than the original note, so you get this fun like power chordy, really interesting harmony sort of effect. So I needed to integrate that into the rig because that's what this is for. The second place that 9 volt travels we'll come back to in a minute. So the third thing that this jack panel is accomplishing for me is it's being a MIDI splitter, because the AO900, the head, and the GFI Specular Tempus both have MIDI in, but they don't have MIDI out or MIDI through. So if I want to control both of those via MIDI, I need a splitter. So we've got our GFI, we've got our AO900. They each can have a MIDI cable from their MIDI ins, but that needs to go to some sort of split so that it can come from the Morningstar MC6. And so there's 1 MIDI in port on the back of the cabinet, 2 MIDI out ports. Just swings right around on the inner workings and comes out. Now that I've hit that point, I can talk about where the 9 volt is going. It's going to the MC6, but not any traditional way. The MC6 accepts a 7-pin MIDI cable, so that pins 6 and 7, which are the ones at the outsides of the arc, draw in the other 5 pins. I can never draw them in any sort of a circle. It's always just a V. It is what it is. These pins on the 7-pin MIDI cable will carry 9 volt power downstage to, or I guess that would be upstage to where the little pedal board is, even though all that's on it is just a MIDI controller. So that MIDI controller can send messages to the pedal, the GFI Specular Tempus, and to the head, the Alpha Omega 900. Gives me control over the mute on the head, gives me control over the compressor on the head, distortion, different EQ profiles, different cab sim profiles. And then on the Specular Tempus, I can pull up the presets that I need, which is primarily that delay, as well as a little slight bit of reverb during some big ambient parts. as well as making sure it's in tempo, sending MIDI clock. So all that information is flying from the MC6 into the pieces of gear that are sitting on top of the cabinet. Then that takes care of these 3 pins. I say 3 pins because in a normal 5-pin MIDI cable, you actually don't need the outside 2. You can actually just wire 3 and it functions just fine. Why? I don't know. I just learned early on that if I can minimize the amount of soldering I'm going to do, I'm going to do that. And so 3 pins each, done and done. The last thing comes from me just feeling like I'm wasting 2 pins on that 7-pin MIDI cable that runs from upstage to downstage. It's carrying power to the MC6, great. It's carrying MIDI back from the MC6, great. But I have 2 pins left. So my genius idea was to run the bass's signal down that. Because that would mean there's only 1 cable that goes from the pedal board upstage to the amp backstage. And it's just 1 cable and it can carry everything. Problem with that? Maybe. We'll see down the line. I'm sure some more experienced cable makers than myself are rolling their eyes. We'll see what happens. It's working for now. So these extra 2 pins, they are pins 4 and 5 in a MIDI cable. They are carrying the bass's signal from that MC6 back. And so then on the actual jack plate, there's a little separation that has a 1/4 inch jack out that swings around with a little patch cable to go into the front of the amp. Done and done. So that fancy 7-pin cable on the inside of the cabinet has these 3 pins splitting off 2 places for the GFI and the AO. These 2 pins are coming from I call it the inner workings of a 1 spot since I don't know what else to call it. It's a 9-volt converter. Can't write today. And then these 2 pins are carrying the instrument level signal from the bass. It's a very magical cable. I like it a lot. That really covers it left to right. I like this rig. I think it's really cool. Is it over the top? Yes. Does it look super messy kind of from behind? Yeah, it kind of does. But from the front, it's clean, it's efficient, it's effective, and I think it's pretty cool. And I hope you think so too. So I guess that's it. Have a good day.